I'm Leon Todd for G66. Welcome to another Tuesday Tone Tip. Today's Tone Tip is actually going to be a collection of much smaller, quicker tone tips on here. I want to show you a bunch of tips and tricks with various blocks in your Fractal device. We'll begin with the clean sound. I'm using the ODS 100 Clean amp model, this 4x12 rumble Dynacab setup, and a little bit of the large room reverb. Let's hear it on the neck humbucker of my Chilia Renegade. We'll begin with the reverb block. Now, this large room reverb is a nice subtle reverb, but did you know that the reverb block can also be used for delay and echo, and there are dedicated types. So instead of using the large room on here, I'm going to use this echo room, and you can see it's using the reverb pre-delay section with some feedback and some echo mix on there with the tap set to input. Now I've got that same large room reverb, but I've also got a delay on there. And you can customize the time, feedback, echo mix in addition to the usual reverb parameters on there. If you want a bigger reverb on there, I'd say start out with the echo hall. This is great for lead delays. The echo plate and the echo pitch plate are pretty awesome as well. Now, some of the best reverbs are actually in the Plex delay block in here. So let's bring up a Plex delay. Now, when you see Plex delay, you think the important part of that is delay. So you think it's going to give you delays, and it certainly does on the stock settings. You can hear there's a very subtle ambient wash on there that's actually still going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the mix up over here, and we're going to select the Plex Verb type on here. I would recommend a bit of low cut and quite a lot of high cut on here. This is just a glorious ambient reverb. Check it out. Can also be used for shimmer style effects on there, and there are a lot of great pre-programmed types in here that I'd recommend you experiment with. So the Plex delay, if you didn't already know, is amazing for reverb. The Multitap delay is probably my favorite all-rounder block in here. Something like the quad parallel delay in here gives you 4 independent delay lines with the addition of having chorus, comb filtering, ring modulation that you can add to each of those delay lines, and the usual EQ, diffusion, phase settings, so much stuff going on in here. One of my favorite ways to use this is to set it up so that I've got 2 delays on the left and right channel. I've got some chorus in the chorus section paired with some really short delays over here. And then I've also got some diffusion, so it gets smeared out. So it's like a combination chorus, delay, and reverb. It would look something like this. You can see that I've got some short delays on delay 1 and 2 with chorus applied to them. Delay 3 and 4 are synced to the tempo and panned hard left and hard right. If I go into the more section on here, I've also got some diffusion. This, again, is just beautiful for single note lines and for chords. It's a great way if you don't want to use a chorus and a delay and a reverb block to get it all done in one block. Speaking of the delay block, if you've got a spare channel in your delay block, I think it's worth having the option of setting it up as a chorus or a flanger. Again, if you don't want to use a dedicated block, you can get this effect with a delay. And here's how you do it. Choose a delay type that you enjoy. I'm going to go with the analog stereo. And let's start with a really short delay time. I'm going to go for 10 milliseconds. I'm going to set the feedback to 0 on here, the mix to 50%, and I'm going to go to the modulation section and just bring the depth and the rate to the desired settings on here. So you can see I've got the depth just below 30%. I've turned the rate up to around 0.6 hertz. Again, if you want it to be more wobbly, crank the rate. I would recommend bringing the depth down as you go, but like magic, I've got a chorus out of the delay block. If you go for a really short delay, like below 3 milliseconds, and you add some feedback, you get a flanger effect out of that. Let's move on now. And this is something that I think would be awesome for the FM3 and the FM9. In fact, I use this a lot of the time because I like using the pitch block for a dual detune effect at the end of the chain, but sometimes I want an octave effect. Well, you can use the ring modulator for an octave effect. And this is how we do it. Leave it on the classic setting, put the tracking mode on either guitar or bass, depending on the instrument that you're playing, but set pitch tracking on. If you want an octave down, set the frequency multiplier to 0.5. I like adding a pretty generous high cut, say to around 4K or something like that. And now I've got a really funky low octave. And something like that in front of a heavily distorted sound, say with our combined chorus delay and reverb from the multi-tap delay, is pretty epic. I've got the 2C plus with the fat switch on. When we're talking about dirty tones, what about boosting lead tones? There's a lot of different ways to do this, and some people like just adding more saturation but keeping the volume the same. Some people like to just turn the volume up. Well, you could do two at the same time without having to use a drive block or something like a parametric EQ or turning up the scene level. There's a great way to do it if you have a dedicated lead scene. You don't want to use an extra block, just turn the level for that scene up. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to the preamp tab in this amp, and I want to use the preamp boost on here. So I'm going to turn this boost switch on. I've got the CC boost set up at the moment, but I want to be able to do this with a foot switch. So the way I do that is I right click it. I'm going to assign it to a control switch. Let's go control switch number 1. So if I hit the control switch on my foot controller, you can see I'm now toggling this switch on and off. And as you can hear, it's going to add even more gain. Very nice indeed. What if I wanted a level boost as well? There's several ways to do that. One would be to right-click on this level control over here. I'll use the control switch again. I'm actually going to use the same control switch so I can get the level and the boost at the same time. And we'll just set our minimum level over here. Where was it? It was at -9. So we'll have -9. And let's just say I want a 3 dB boost. So I want to go to about -6 over here. Let's go a little bit more than 3. So check this out. When I turn the control switch off, I'm back to my original settings. When I turn it on, I'm getting a preamp boost, so more gain and saturation, and I'm getting a level boost. This is glorious. Another way you could do this would be to use the output EQ in the amp section. I've gone back to this ODS clean, and we'll just assign the control switch to the on and off switch of the EQ. So again, I'm going to use the same control switch. You could use different control switches, so you got a separate preamp and sort of post-amp boost on there, but we'll go control switch number 1, and rather than bring the level up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to boost the mid-range over here. So we'll give it a 1K, 500, and 2K boost on there. This is going to give us a very guitar-focused boost. So let's have a listen to this now. You can play around with the location of this as well. If you wanted to have it before the power amp on there, the way you might use it, say, in an effects loop on an amp, so you hit the power amp harder, it's going to give you a slightly different effect on there. So that works really, really well. And a great one if you're an FM3 user and you want a dedicated clean sound without using an extra amp block, you can use a compressor to get a really lovely straight to the board style tone. So we're going to come in here and we're going to use a compressor block. I really like the sparkly 80s style clean that you can get out of the Rock Guy compressor. Just crank the compression and the tone control up on there. And yeah, basically you get the sound of the late 80s out of your guitar with this. And then adding some delay block chorus and some Plex delay reverb on there. It's pretty lush. One last one before we go. If you don't want to use a dedicated reverb block to add some thickness to your guitar sound, you can use the room parameter in the cab block. And I feel like this is great for people who like dry rock sounds. It gives you a bit of thickness without sounding like an obvious reverb. And you don't have to go too hard with this. I do like turning the room size up on here, but like 10% mix will give you heaps. Actually, let's hear the difference between 0 and 10 on here. I'm using the JCM 800 model. It sounds like this. A little goes a long way with this room level on here, particularly useful if you're practicing with headphones or you're playing on in-ears and you just want to make the guitar sound a little less direct on there. I'm going to pull up stumps for now. That's a whole grab bag of fun tips and tricks. I really hope you find some of these useful, and I hope you learned at least one fun trick on today's video. I would love to revisit this in the future and do something similar to this. So if you've got any particular questions or any requests, please let me know in the comment section below. Also, let me know what your favorite little tips and tricks for using blocks in unconventional ways is on your Fractal device, and I will see you on the next one.